Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Before we get on with more welding videos, I thought I'd give you a quick overview of how the air suspension rebuild's coming along. If you follow the Mercedes maintenance, the Mercedes rescue group, I've posted a few pictures on there showing you the process, how far I've got so far. You've already seen the painting of the subframe and the various whole control arms, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview of all the zinc plating that came out, and everything seems to be coming together nicely. As you know, I painted the air tanks some weeks ago now. Got a couple of questions about those. Replacing some of the rubber parts that need, perish. These, like for instance, these rubber stoppers on the lower control arms. I think I only replaced 2 of them. The other 2 were fine. The other 2 had big splits in them, so those have been replaced as well. These little buffers for the upper control arms that sit here, got new ones of those. And as I say, zinc plated, zinc plated all the bare metal parts, obviously, and then the pins on the lower control arms, so I've replaced those. The king pins, I do have a new set of king pins, but the originals, I've checked them, and I talked to Pierre the other day, and there's absolutely no play in them. I'm starting to think they were replaced not too long ago. So I'm just gonna re-grease them and reassemble them, and just call it good to go. There's no point putting them on if I don't need it. And then I've got a spare set down the road if they do need replacing, and then obviously I can save them for my other 108s. So that saves a little time dealing with the machinist, pushing in the sleeves and taking the old ones out and all that stuff. So like I say, I'm going to keep those. I have had a little trouble locating the lower outer control arm kit. They're no longer available. The actual trunnion seems to be in good shape, but the bolt that goes through it seems to have some wear areas. Possibly if anyone can put me onto a good used one, that would be awesome. Otherwise I'll just wait to see if I can locate a new kit. I already bought the upper control arm kits, but the lower one I seem to be having some trouble locating those. So that's the one thing holding me up at the moment, but let me show you. So yeah, everything seems to be coming together nice. Got the colour match from the paint store. Oh yeah, the little bolts here, the nuts I should say, that connect in for the air, there's a little rubber ring around there. Obviously I'll replace that. Again, a question to people that know these 109s, air suspension, is there a particular rubber ring, or a regular O-ring from the parts store will be fine? So that's one question I have. So those I actually chromated as well, so they came out quite nicely. Some of the chromate on, like for instance this ring, this came out beautiful. This is almost perfect. This one came out okay, but there's a little pitting in the metal, as you can see, but I'm not bothered about that. As long as it's got the coverage on there, that's fine. All the bolts, these cross straps, the torsion bar yokes here, they come out beautiful. Almost look brand new again, so very happy with those. The end nuts to the lower pins on the control arms, got those. The cone came out really nice. Check that out, see? Came out really nice on that side. This one is heavily pitted, but again, most of it is covered by the bag. As long as it's plated up okay, I'm fine with that. What else? As I say, now, I wanted obviously the airbags, got those. I bought those actually from Ken at Mercedes source. I'm assuming these came for the, remember the, what was it, he called it the Beast or something, the 6.3 Beast. Maybe he never got to put these on, but I bought those from him. What I did notice, these are dated. They have a date stamp on them somewhere. I don't have my powerful glasses on, but they are date stamped, so because they're a rubber part, so you know how old they are. As I say, the kingpins I'm going to keep. I'm just going to clean these knuckles up, give them a coat of this chassis paint, and call it good to go. Okay, I'm going to talk about the engine mounts in a minute. These are all of the air line brackets, you know, the feeder lines. They came out beautiful, really almost like brand new looking. Various bolts and brackets for the airline holders, and these are the ones that, you know, kind of go like that to hold the airlines. And these are all the mounting bolts for the air, you know, the air valves. These are some miscellaneous bolts that I plated. This, I think, is the leaf spring bolt. I want to talk to you about the engine mounts. As you know, on the 6.3 they take a particular engine mount that I do not believe any other manufacturer makes. You know, I think other manufacturers like name escapes me right now, I think Merle or something, and some of the other guys. And you know, personally, from my experience, when I was first getting back into the 108s, my 4.5 needed engine mounts, and I went for the I think Merle, and they were replaced about 4 years ago, something like that. And to be honest with you, I think that's an area you don't want to skimp on, because I'm thinking, you know, in probably a couple of years they're going to need replacing again. And so it's kind of a little false economy there, going for the cheapo ones. And I think for the amount of money that you have to spend on the Mercedes ones, you know, the proper ones, maybe a few $100s more, you know, then it's done, isn't it? You know, you haven't got to worry about it again for many years. So that's my 2 pence on it. So these are obviously the originals. Now, at first glance, you'd think, compared to what the state of my, for instance, 6-cylinder ones were, when I replaced my 6-cylinder, they were completely collapsed flat, and there was a huge amount of difference. These have not collapsed flat, but on closer inspection, I don't know whether you can see these. I'm going to try and get this focused properly. I don't know whether you can see that. There's some cracking all around the rubber, and I don't know how long these have been on there. Possibly the originals. I have no way of knowing, really. But there's a heavy cracking amount, and also another telltale sign. Obviously, the engine's going down on the subframe, and on the air suspension car, on this one anyway, I could see that the airlines had come in contact with the underside of the car engine, you know, and they'd kind of put some rubber around them to protect them, but they kind of jimmy rigged it, you know, did a botch job of it. So essentially the engine is coming down and making contact with the airlines. And also on closer inspection, I'll show you the new ones in a minute. If you look at the profile of the side of this one, hopefully you can see if there's a good contrast on the background there. If you see, that's kind of domed there. And essentially, I'll show you on the new one. The new one, you see, this surface is dead flat here. So it's up more. So obviously when this gets pushed down, these bulge out, these two areas here. Now, that to me is a logical visual cue to see that the mount is compressing on itself. So that might help someone to do a quick visual check on an engine mount. I may be talking out my rear end, but that makes sense to me. So again, the profile is flat on the new one and bulging on the other one. So let's take some measurements. So this one is obviously the old one. I'll do quick measurement here on this guy. Now this is 1 inch. Let's see, make sure that's, get as close as possible, you know, get the idea. 1 7/8 from the underside to the top of the rubber there. 1 7/8. The new one, I've got 2 1/8 there right now, so I think that's a good measurement. And then I'll do a visual look for you. We'll set that down on the bench and I'll change the camera angle for you. So I'm just doing this because when I was looking, I couldn't find anything really on the 6.3 engine mounts, videos and all that stuff. But I thought this would be handy for people to see them. You can see there the difference. And not a giant amount, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, not as much as my 6-cylinder one was, but you know, an amount there. So as far as cost, obviously they don't give these away. I looked around for some time trying to find the best price, and I found them down in Southern California at CalStar Mercedes. I'm not in any connection with them, but they were very friendly, and spoke to Joe, and these were on sale for $327. Certainly not a cheap engine mount, but that was the cheapest I'd found. The second cheapest was at MB Classics in Germany. They were ranging in at around $350, but then obviously you got to pay shipping. So my recommendation, even if you don't need them right now, is range around, and if you intend keeping the car for a long period of time, I'd snap these up, because you know, I'm sure the price is certainly not going to go down, they're going to only go up. Also visually, as you can see, a real telltale. Now obviously the rubber that we're looking at, the top surface to the bottom surface, we took that measurement, but as you can see, this nut assembly has pressed itself into the rubber there. As you can see, it's kind of pressed in there with the weight. This one sits nicely on top there, see that? And obviously the engine of the 6.3 and the torque and everything, a massive amount of force on these engine mounts. I can't even imagine this, I mean, this is obviously a very quality rubber setup. You know, this isn't something you want to skimp on. And with the 6.3, I don't even think there's a choice anyway. I think it's only a Mercedes part. I may be wrong on that, but anyway. So that is the engine mounts. Taking in consideration the cost of the engine mounts, the airbags, those are obviously two significant things. Now, obviously the air valves are another significant cost. I was lucky enough to talked to the previous owner and went to the mechanic shop that this car was serviced at many years ago, but from the mileage records, the car has only done about 2,500 miles since they last saw it. And then they had trouble with the air suspension. There was a slow leak coming from one of the bags, and that's why the car was laid up. Now, when they operated the air suspension at the garage, they said it operated perfectly. It would hold for about 5 hours until that leak at the front left airbag brought it down. So fingers crossed, the valves are okay. They certainly operated fine when we manually pumped it up at the graveyard site. So that's something, you know, I'm prepared to send them off and get them rebuilt if that's the way it is. And they're obviously easily accessible. If this goes back together and they're giving me problems, I'll just unbolt them and send them off. So there you go. That's just a little overview of the suspension so far. This is something in my back room here that I can just work on when the parts come in. So if anyone can give me some tips on where to find the outer control arm rebuild kits, that would be awesome. And also the little rings on the airbags would be great as well. I've talked to some of the guys about the orientation of these rings when they go back on the air tanks. These are drainage holes, and they have to be orientated so they're in the correct position. So obviously the air that has moisture in it can drain out of these bags, because condensation build up and all that good stuff. And then also there are markings on these bags, and I think that is the triangle, the diamond shaped marking that has to be opposite the drain holes. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but no big rush to put those back on yet. There is no sealant or anything that goes on. They just get maybe some dish soap or something to help you mount them on the rings. One other thing, I do intend replacing all the airline plumbing, you know, once this is all assembled. I've got the old stuff so I can copy all the curves and everything. I'm going to replace all that. So this should look really pretty once it's all together. One thing before I go, as far as cost and all that sort of stuff, I bring it up on occasion. You know, yeah, some of these prices of some of these parts can be, you know, pretty expensive. But again, you're dealing with a car that's pretty darn rare nowadays. And once it's up and running, once it's going, once we've got it all put together nicely and done and maintained properly, I'm sure it's going to give me years of trouble-free service, you know. Compared to modern cars, you know, for instance, the engine mounts, I don't know what they cost on new cars, but I'm sure some of the newer motors, you know, some of the big motors, big engines in them, their mounts are probably not an awful lot different as far as costing. Springs instead of airbags, you know, some springs are not probably as expensive as the airbags, but then the thing is, you've got to deal with taking those springs out, and how, you know, we've talked about it on the group. Those springs, unless you've got the right equipment, can be very, very dangerous to remove. And I'd recommend, you know, if you don't know what you're doing, give it to someone else, and then that obviously is going to cost you. With the airbags, you just let air out the suspension and then it comes apart. You can do your kingpins, you can rebuild, all that stuff. So there's pros and cons about it, really, when you think about it. So a lot less labour involved in servicing the control arm area with an air suspension car. So anyway, that's just what I think. Anyway, you might think I'm full of it, but well, I think that's about it for this short video. I'm going to carry on and probably do some welding today on that door, finish off that final panel, get that all aligned correctly, and yeah, so that's the next video. I'll try and edit this one up tonight so you can get to see it, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, guys, and thank you very much for watching. Please hit subscribe and the like button and share the video if you feel inclined. Alright, well, take care, guys. Bye bye.